First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So, I usually been seeing your name written, not really pronounced. So, how do you pronounce your name?
Tania.
Tanya. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like Tania or like there's like a special way to pronounce it or something like that, but that
Tania,
seems simple enough.
people call me T a lot, like in
Oh,
the,
okay.
yeah, just at the gym. People are like, T, like, yeah.
Awesome. So I also want to thank you for sending me this shirt. So I got to tell you, it's usually like sometimes when I'll get like apparel and stuff, sometimes the shirts can be kind of like abrasive and, they're kind of like have that cardboardy type of material. This
Yeah.
shirt is so like just soft and it fits like, exactly right, specifically basically for someone who's into fitness and training and just makes you look so good. How did you come up with like this branding and just this apparel business in general?
So Ariel actually runs my clothing line, and she's
Mhm.
been in clothing for a while. For a couple people that I know back at Umbrella's Pro Gym. So I just reached out to her. I told her, hey, this is what I'm looking on getting. I want a logo that, I don't know, like that says every day counts. Cause that's
Mhm.
always been like my thing, like waking up every day, like everything you do every day of your day counts. So
Mhm.
I went based on that. And then I'm like, can you help me create something? But
Mhm.
then she came up with that logo, and I kind of told her I want some dumbbells, something. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what we came up with. So
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, you can see it on camera. But yeah, I mean, it looks amazing. And it's something that like you would think was, a lot of money like was put into it. Like it's really like high quality product. So like really awesome job with that for sure.
appreciate it.
So how did you get like into like training and fitness and just in general?
So just always like growing up, I always wanted to get big legs. I'm sure girls
Mhm.
understand. Just want to get big, and that's always been my thing. And I actually graduated from UNC, and then after that, I did powerlifting for 5 years before I ever started thinking of bodybuilding. And
Mhm.
I started training at Ambrose Pro Gym and started to see that I was doing it wrong. Like powerlifting and bodybuilding, different training.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I had the baseline of like deadlifts, squats, and bench press. So I knew my body wasn't going to change. It was going to stay in shape if I watched what I eat, but there was just so much that was going to come in place.
Mhm.
So I started training at Umbra, started hanging out with people who are bodybuilders, and actually started to learn from them and just invest time in training and actually watch videos online. And now I'm
Mhm.
like competing, and I don't know, I love it. Like
Yeah.
I like discipline. I like to know that I can do something.
Mhm. So it's interesting, and excuse me if I'm looking down. I'm kind of writing some things as you're going to make sure that I remembered. But one thing you mentioned was that you were talking about how powerlifting, like training for powerlifting and bodybuilding, is different, and like how so? Like, what was the difference that you noticed when you changed?
The split, I mean, for powerlifting, when you're getting ready for a meet, it is Monday, Wednesday, Friday that you're training. With weekends off, sometimes you'll go in and like try to fix a squat or something like deload, they call it. But and then for bodybuilding, you actually do more reps, more muscle connection. Like it's just way different. Like you're doing 50 reps instead of doing 6 reps on a
Mhm.
squat to try to get your max. So
Yeah. Yeah. So when you power lift, when you train, like do you max out every single time you go into the gym, or like how does it, I'm not a power lifter. I've come across some people, of course, that have done it, but I don't think I've ever discussed like how they train.
it's not really max out. Like you can max out every week, but it's every other week. So
Mm.
one week you'll do, you know what your heavy is and a PR is. They call it PR. You know your PR. So you're gonna hit that PR for for 1 rep. So it's gonna be 6. So say you're gonna go 145, and then you're gonna go 155 for 5, and then 165 for 3, and then for 2 reps, you're going to do your PR. And then with spotting you. And it's just different. It's totally different.
Yeah. How did you notice like any differences in physique? Like when you were competing as a power lifter and training as a power lifter, was there changes to your physique, or did you only notice the changes when you went over to like a more bodybuilding volumized type of style?
Well, I noticed difference because my nutrition was different, eating 5 times a day, training, cardio. So your body just starts to take on a different look over time. It doesn't happen like overnight, of course, but over like the 2-3 years, I have noticed my body, even off season, just it looks way different.
But in bodybuilding, you didn't notice any changes. It was strictly like with regard to power.
I mean, I lose strength. Definitely lots of strength in body. It shouldn't be like that, but when I'm getting ready for sure, it's like I'm stronger. But in the beginning of starting bodybuilding, you feel weak because you're doing 50 reps and you have to stay at like 25 pounds, and you're like, oh my God, I can't. So
what do you recommend as far as somebody just getting into bodybuilding? Do you recommend like just more volume just until they get stronger and then pick up the weight at that point? Or like how would you give somebody some advice in that sense?
Muscle connection is the key. Like definitely don't worry about how much weight you're moving, because if you're not moving the weight correctly, you're not really doing anything with the weight besides just floating with it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I was just listening to a podcast, Mark Bell's podcast, Power Project, and he had somebody on, and they were talking about muscle connection and how important like muscle connection is, because it's you can do a lower weight, but if the muscle connection is there, you can actually grow that muscle. And as opposed to someone who's like using a heavier weight, they might not necessarily, they're moving the weight, but it's not affecting their physique much. And it's like you see that because sometimes you'll see people that work out with fairly decent weights, but like their physique doesn't really change much. And I feel like the muscle connection aspect is huge. That's a big part of it for sure.
I agree. I mean, if you really focus, you'll realize 10 pounds, you can make 10 pounds feel like 50 pounds easily. It's just a matter of the way you're connecting.
Right. And that's a big deal, especially like, well, now things are kind of opening up, and they've been, kind of opening up for a while. But during the pandemic, a lot of people like started to train at home. And so, at home, you're not going to have the kind of, and I'm just speaking from my own personal experience too, because I built a gym in my garage, and I added some weights, I got some 45s, I got this, I got that. But still, even with all that, it's like the amount of sheer poundage that I have in the house is not the same as, a gym. A gym is set up for, things like that. And so like the workouts had to be kind of like I had to improvise. So like muscle connection in that scenario is extremely important, because you might not even necessarily have the kind of weight, like the amount of weight that you would, in a gym. So I feel like probably a lot of people, are dealing with that as well, or dealt with it.
Oh yeah, of course.
How did you deal as far as the pandemic? I mean, you being competitive, being at the gym is super important. Was there a period where the gym was shut down, or like, how did you, deal with that kind of, wave of things?
So it was rough. I definitely didn't have a built gym. I bought a bench press from a friend who was building his gym in the garage. And I used that, and then I got bands and started doing like a whole bunch of random workouts that I will find online. And then I had eventually, like a month into the pandemic, I had somebody reach out to me that built like a full gym, like leg press inside the garage, like everything, like squat rack. Yeah, like we're talking about like everything, cables. So a month after the pandemic, I started training there, but it was far. It was like a 30-minute commute after work. So I will make it there here and there. And it's just the energy is just not the same. I mean, you know, there are all these people that are quarantined in their house and you're here training, but you're going to give it all you can, but it's just not the same. People were scared to train. Like I would invite people, but you didn't know what was really going on at that moment. Everybody wanted to stay at home. So
Yeah.
I just did good.
You feel like it was different, like just how you felt. You said the energy wasn't the same, like, and I kind of feel like I know I kind of have an idea of what you're talking about, but do you feel that's like a mental thing, or do you feel it actually, like there's some reality to it? I personally thought that maybe it was because I would just wasn't surrounded with like-minded people, and it's like I'm working out, I'm trying to push myself, but there is something for me to see somebody else, that's pursuing the same thing and pushing themselves. It kind of makes me like push myself as well. Like, what do you think about that?
I agree. I definitely like energy around me, watching other people like achieve goals and like makes me push myself, such as me alone in a garage is just not the same. I mean,
Yeah.
they just spot me to go to my max, and it's just not the same. Like you're gonna train, but it's
Right.
definitely
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you can keep and maintain your physique. I think maybe you can even keep a fairly decent physique, but it is that subconscious thing of being surrounded by like-minded people that allows you to kind of like take it to the next level. And again, like if somebody like you, and I was talking to others as well that are competitive, it's really important for them to be able to do that. They're not just working out for their health, although that's a part of it. It's they're also an athlete, so it's like as an athlete you gotta extend yourself a little further than just like an average person. So I
agree.
definitely um so you said that originally you wanted to like grow bigger legs and stuff. What division are you competing in?
So I'm gonna stick to figure.
Okay.
Not saying I'm not trying to move to wellness eventually. Obviously, the wellness competi- competition is super, super big right now.
Hmm.
These girls are looking crazy with their legs and their, you know,
Yeah.
butts and everything. Like they look great. So it's definitely going to take time for me to move up to that level because when I started competing, I had no glutes. They were just flat like a wall. So from start to scratch to trying to build, it's going to take me time. But I do
Hmm.
the next 2 years, hopefully moving into that division. But until then, I'll stick to figure and continue to just build my whole body,
Yeah.
like legs, shoulders. I have work to do. I mean, I definitely do. And I know what I have to work on. So I'm taking this whole year off. And that's what me and my coach decided. And then next year, well,
Okay. So
it,
it's Go ahead. I'm sorry. Mhm.
no, that's it.
So, do legs grow easily for you, or is that like a part, of your body that you struggle with?
I can say I struggle with. I actually work at the hospital, so I'm on my feet all day. So it's like
Mm,
cardio all day, just walking all day. So I can't say my legs struggle to grow, but they have came a long way, and they're definitely my most lean body part that I maintain on off
I
season.
see.
Yeah, so it takes
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. What is your routine as far as like legs are concerned? Is there an exercise that you absolutely just love, that feel, you really feel that connection and you feel like it's helping you grow?
So way before like I started to understand like how I'm supposed to train, I never hip thrust ever. So until like this last year, I started hip thrusting, and I have noticed a difference, like my strength in my hips when I pull weight up from even a squat.
Mm.
Like I've noticed a huge difference. So really been focusing a lot on hip thrusting and really activating the glutes when I do that.
Yeah,
So
I was just talking to somebody about that and how you know, that's normally considered like when you see it in a gym, it's done by women, generally speaking. But I was just talking to somebody about how important it is for everybody to do. Like even men to hip thrust is hugely important because, like you said, it activates certain muscle groups that you normally wouldn't activate. And then when those get strong, your other lifts get better, which just sounds like what happened with you. And Yeah, it's interesting because it's like all those little things that nobody really like thinks about, can really affect you overall.
Yeah, I
How,
agree.
how do you you said that you work in the hospital. If you don't mind me asking, what do you do?
Yeah. So I do a lot of things. So I actually do unit clerk stuff. So I work in the mom baby a lot. Sometimes I have two jobs. So sometimes I do CNA work as well, nursing
Hmm.
assistant. I have my human services degree and my bachelor. That's my bachelor in human services. And then I have my minor in nutrition. So sometimes I have a couple clients online as well, but so I do a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like they keep you busy, huh?
Yeah. But
So how's everything as far as like the medical field is concerned with every, through the pandemic and now I almost like, I don't know what we should call it now. Most probably like an endemic now. We just kind of live with it. Um, but like how are things, there?
So I was working COVID when it was happening. So
Mhm.
because we were surgical, I was working at the surgical floor at that time.
Mhm.
So we didn't have elective surgery. So we became the COVID unit when everything was happening. I actually was just getting back from, I went to the Arno that year when COVID started. So I was getting back
Mm.
from Ohio when I came and everybody was buying toilet paper because, toilet paper was the
That's the
big
first thing.
toilet paper was the big thing. So I didn't know what was going on. I just got back from traveling and I was like, okay. So and then I took it serious. Then I had to wake up at 5 a.m. to go shopping because you had to get in
Right.
line. So just I don't know. Like I feel like we're all over it at the
Hmm.
hospital. If I'm
Hmm.
being honest, just from watching all of us go through it.
Yeah.
We have COVID patients. So luckily we have zero right now in our hospital. I don't know about other hospitals.
Yeah. Yeah, here in so I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. The biggest we have a few big ones, but the biggest one that probably everybody kind of knows about is Vanderbilt. And so far it's like the cases are fairly low. I mean, people still are getting it, but they're not getting like hospitalized from it. Part of it is probably just some people are already have gotten sick several times, others might have taken the vaccine. So I think it's like overall it's kind of reduced. I know that in there's a Omicron variant that's going around, but I don't think the US has like too many of those cases. Like it's a variant of the Omicron, like I forgot what they call like stealth variant or something like that. But yeah, I'm not seeing it much here either. Um, so so your plan at this point, just to pivot back to bodybuilding, you said you're going to take the year to grow.
Yes. So my goal is to grow. And then I had a little bit of hormone imbalance throughout my
Hmm.
last show. So I'm trying to get that adjusted because it's a real thing. If your hormones are not balanced, you're not gonna get lean. It's just
Yeah.
a real. You
What kind? If you don't, and again, it's like I know some of this stuff might be kind of private, so just you can pass on it. But what kind of like hormonal issues were going on?
so just my estrogen level was a little high.
Hmm.
So if you have high estrogen, you're not gonna get lean. I mean, you are
Right.
gonna, but there's just gonna be a gap where you're like forcing your body. But high estrogen is gonna make you go water. So
Hmm.
it's just a matter of getting those levels a little more lower, and then it's it's happening. I mean, I'm doing my blood work, doing what I have to do. That's
Hmm.
really what happened through my last show, but it really has to do with myself. I don't think this had to do with my coach that I have right now. He actually is great. He's the reason that I'm getting my levels
Hmm.
checked. It was from my previous competing and being with the coach who never really told me to get my blood work done, and
Hmm.
went into competing this last year. And then I ended up with high estrogen, and that's where I'm sitting at now. But it's just reality. I'm not in a hurry to jump back on stage.
Hmm.
It's my health. There's no point of going through a whole entire prep and not being able to get lean. It's almost pointless at that.
How did you know that you had high estrogen? Like, was there like a feeling that you got or something happened?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely started feeling like it was like I felt agitated. Like I would wake up and I felt like my heart was racing at time. Like I felt like I was happy, but then I wasn't happy, and then I was like
Mm.
sad. Emotions were just like 0 to 100 to myself.
Hmm.
I didn't have to like share that energy with anybody. I'm
Right.
like the person that if I don't feel like I can give you 100% of my time, I will keep to myself. So
Mhm.
then I realized that I started to close down, and like I didn't know if I wanted to compete, and I started just feeling down. Like everything
Mhm.
just kind of, it was kind of like bodybuilding wasn't going to be for me for a little bit there.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I had a couple of my friends reach out. They're like, have you checked your blood work? Have you, like, you should go here. So I went to Forever Young, which is out here in Colorado. And then they checked my levels. They're like, oh yeah, your estrogen's high, and your test levels are actually very, very high, which that causes low energy. So that's where
Wow.
I'm.
Okay. And then that's when you were like, okay, I got to do something about this.
Yeah. And then, yeah,
Mhm.
if
Yeah,
any,
it's go
here
ahead.
now. And it's bad because I'm trying to grow, but now that I'm controlling my hormones and I'm not very like big person as it is, it feels like I'm getting leaner throughout the process of
Mm.
taking it. So I'm just like, this is fun. I'm never gonna grow, but I will. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, it's wild how like hormones can have such a huge impact on like your physique one, but then also like your emotions too, because there was a moment where I had some high estrogen too, and the way I thought I'm that was going on was because I started to get like more emotional, like things started to hit me more than they normally would. And I was like, this is kind of weird, and it's weird for me. I mean, like different people have different personalities, but it's weird for me. And so that's when I went and got it checked, and it was like on the higher end. So how are you addressing it? Is it just through just medication, or are you like lifestyle?
Yeah, basically they're just trying to control it. So that's
Mhm.
basically it. Yeah, just I guess it's like a every 2 months I have to get my blood work done and kind of see where
Mhm.
I feel better. I feel more relaxed now when I wake up.
Mhm.
I'm really strong headed. So like I don't really let things get to me. I kind
Mhm.
of by that, like, this is not it. Like there's more people out there with which more problems in their life, and
Mhm. Mhm.
this is something that I can fix. So like,
Yeah.
let's fix it. And it's gonna take time, just like a competition. When you get ready for a show, you're not gonna get lean overnight. It's gonna take 4 or 5 months for
Yeah.
you to get ready for a show. So if I can compete and I know how to diet, it's discipline. I'm gonna get through this and then I'm gonna come back.
Right, right. I was I forgot who mentioned it, but I remember a phrase someone said, discipline is freedom. And is an interesting like kind of phrase because it truly is. Because I mean, because when you're disciplined, you can accomplish like so much more. And it's like you mentioned, it's like through discipline you can figure it out. I was also thinking patience, like bodybuilding is like a is also an exercise in patience, because to your point, it takes time, to get better. It takes time to get leaner. It takes time to grow muscle. And so because you're so experienced in that patience aspect, it's okay if you take a year, and to grow. It's okay that you take time to, get your health and your hormones in check before you move on to the next step. Some people that aren't patient, they'll push the envelope, they'll do things that they shouldn't, do for their, to detriment to their health. And then, the consequences end up pretty dire, in a lot of those cases. So, I mean, we kind of, seen a lot of people pass away and in the bodybuilding industry, pretty recently. Within the last few years, a lot of people have passed away. So um what do you think about the figure division, and like where it's going, where it's at? Do you like it? You think people are getting too big? You think there's not big enough? Like what are your thoughts about the division?
Well, we're talking Olympia stage. We know those girls look crazy. The waist, unbelievable. I'm
Mm,
going to happen the next 2 years. I feel like the new generation's coming into the game of bodybuilding now. That I
mm,
mean, look at I forgot her name. She's just new. She just placed fifth at the Olympia this year. She's she's I think she's Dominican or something.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll have to look it up.
I mean, I don't think they're getting too big, but I do think that the condition is next level now. Like it,
Hmm.
I mean, these girls are gonna grow. I mean, that's what happens off season. You continue to train, and your body changes every time. The more you do it, the more muscle you're gonna get.
Yeah.
So the people that are stepping at Olympia, they're going to be bigger every year, and they're in like little proportions, you know, obviously not to the extent, but
Right.
we'll see what happens. I feel like every year is different.
Yeah, I mean the condition, like you said, to your point, the condition is insane. I mean, some of the people that I see on the women's side I mean, it's wild how lean they can get. I mean, it's I don't really know how much what much more you can do. So like let's say you're someone that is stepping on stage at the Olympia, right? And you're coming in, at that level of conditioning and you're placing, let's say you're placing third or fourth or fifth or sixth, whatever. It's like, what do you do to get better? Like, what can you do if you're already as like there's only so much body fat that you can lose. I mean, I guess you could get bigger. I mean, but then you can grow out of the division, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's always you can grow out, but I mean, I don't know, because look at the wellness girl. Like,
Mhm.
there's just next level to it condition.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
that's true.
now. So I feel
Yeah.
like anybody stepping at the Olympia, you basically have to come in paper lean, like lean, like no body
Yeah.
fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's hard.
It's wild. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part that you even said. Go ahead.
Everybody competing at the Olympia looks great, you know, like
Hmm.
they bring their best package. I mean, that's what they're there to do. And it's just what I feel like it always going to go based on what the judges want and what they're looking for.
Hmm.
And social media, who is bigger in this aspect, like politically and everything. I really do think all that takes consideration on any show.
Hmm. Well, right, for sure. I think social media has brought a totally different element to the game, right? To everything, but fitness especially, because if there's anything that's booming on, Instagram, it's like fitness and, as generally speaking, and then like competitors. Cause really like, as a bodybuilder, like before social media, I mean, what kind of exposure would you get? Like just magazines, that's it. And now, you have some fitness, social media, gurus or whatever you want to call them, that are, have millions of followers, that they're reaching the millions, people at a time. So it's definitely huge. Do you think it's social media is a benefit, or you think it's a hindrance to the sport?
I mean, it's a benefit because that's how people go watch. People who
Hmm.
have Instagram that like they follow who would good example, Nick Walker, right?
Hmm.
Blessing, like those bodybuilders, Akeem Williams, like all
Hmm.
those people that are so big. If they didn't have a social media, then what are you gonna go watch?
Hmm.
You know
Right.
what I mean? So it makes you want to go to Olympia, go to the expo and see these people who are famous on Instagram because you're a
Yeah.
fan, they're training. And I feel like that is really how social media takes in place and how bodybuilders get their money as well, because they're out there, you know?
Right, right. I mean, to your point, that's true, because it's like, financially, it's such a huge benefit, because otherwise, what would you get? You would just get like whatever you would win at the shows, which, I mean, normally bodybuilding is a financially draining sport, not a, for very few people, it could be rewarding if you're winning at the very top levels. But in general, it's not really like a financially rewarding sport. People do it because they love it, and so social media really allows people to make a living, off of it. So I know you mentioned a couple of people that are like on the male side. Are you follow that pretty closely?
Bodybuilding. Yeah. I mean, I'm friends with a couple of them. Like, I'm actually good friends with King Williams, like, very.
Awesome.
And a couple people out in Colorado. I mean, there's a lot of bodybuilders out here. Brad is out here. Ivana they're out
Hmm.
here. I just follow it to like, I like to see who's competing, like at the Arno and the Olympia and
Right. Right.
bodybuilding. And I like when my coach has new clients, I take a look at them with him
Hmm.
and I help their posing out. Like I enjoy all that.
Awesome.
But
That's awesome. I think I had Akeem on the show a while back, a few months ago. So it was a good good show we had. Brandon Curry lives here in Nashville. So I mean, he trains at Oxygen Gym as far as I know. He's still gonna go there in Kuwait, I think, is it? But he lives, you know, his family is here in Nashville, Tennessee.
I think Bo Lewis or as well lives in Tennessee. 212. He trains with Brandon, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I believe you're right. My mind is kind of going blank, but yeah, I think you're right. So it's interesting how like the spread geographically for high level competitors is, because one thing I was talking to somebody else about it is that Texas has a lot of competitors in Texas, you know, so Florida, Texas, like you said, Colorado has some too. So it's interesting, and it changes every so often. Like if you know, people move and you'll get like these pockets of competitors in certain areas, you know, which makes sense because, you know, a lot of times if good quality, you know, athletes go somewhere, others go there to train with them and be around them and so forth, and they get better as well. So it makes sense. What did you think about as far as like men's bodybuilding? Like, who do you like this upcoming year at the Olympia? Do you think Rami's gonna, you know, win again? Do you think someone else is gonna come in and take that spot?
It's complicated. I mean, Rami has all year to prep for the Olympia, so you know that gives him more benefits to come in condition. I mean, he seems like he knows how to peak in now. So if he puts everything together, I can see him taking it for a 3-time Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because it's like initially he wasn't peaking well, and so like that, and he wasn't in the best of condition the first few years he competed. So he came in like, you know, I think it was top 5, but a couple of times he got second, I think, maybe, I don't know. But then once he won, it was like he's kind of figured it out, and now he won another one. And so like, you know, what are the chances that someone is going to knock him off? I mean, I thought Brandon looked phenomenal at the last year's Olympia. I thought he was going to take it, but if he can't beat him at that condition, then who is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's still a wild card for a while unless somebody shows up differently. But
right,
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I can still see him taking it again for another. So he can kind of still for sure.
That it's going to be interesting. Are you going to go? Are you going to try to hit the Olympia?
I actually talking to Akeem, I told him this year I should go. I didn't go last year, but I did tell him that this year I'm hoping to go. So yeah,
that'll be interesting. Do you know what, are they having it in back in Vegas, or is it going to be in Florida again?
Yeah, that's what I saw. They're back in Vegas. Hopefully, unless something happens until then, where they're going to close down for another COVID. I don't know. I don't know.
It was so wild because that year that COVID hit, I literally, like, I was getting ready to go to the Arnold, the one that I guess you went to, and I was so excited because I haven't been there for a few years. And then like a couple of days before I left, or actually it might have been the night before, I saw the announcement that they're basically scratching the expo. Excuse me.
Yes, there was no expo. You're correct. Yeah, there was a meet and greet, but
yeah, I decided not to go just because I was like, well, the expo is, you know, is a huge part of the show. I mean, that's where everybody kind of goes for that. So, but yeah, that was the one that I think Fran won the wellness in that Arnold. She beat Issa, and
good.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry. It's you were cutting out a bit. Go ahead.
It's very competitive right now in wellness.
Yeah. So who do you like in the wellness division?
I don't know. I gotta say, it's complicated because I like everybody who's from Brazil. They just bring it.
They're all very close, right? Like, I mean, it feels like that to, you know, to me at least. Like they're all coming in good condition. They're all like look great. It's almost like they're kind of deciding like what structure they want, you know, to win the Olympia, more so than like whether they're conditioned or not, because they all seem like they're in great shape, you know.
Yeah, no, they all look great. Like their glutes, like they know what they're doing. Like all respect wellness division for sure.
So one thing that you mentioned, then noticed that you said you help your coach out with some like posing and things like that on occasion. Is that something that you're pursuing on your own? Are you planning to pursue later on? Is that something that interests you?
So I won't say like a lot. I haven't done it a lot, but I have like had some of his competitors like reach out to me on Instagram, send me photos with about like the posting, and did a 2-3 weeks ago. He had somebody competing, kind of looked at what he looked like, and I mean, I don't want to do that yet until I can figure out my own posting, because when I get on stage, I'd be struggling sometimes. So once I get my situation straight, then I can show somebody else. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So but that's something that like interests you and possibly in the future.
Oh, for sure. Because I want to get better at it as it is. Because way you present yourself on stage, it's really what gets you to win. It's not just coming in condition. You can't just come in condition and looking like you're about to fall on your heels. Like, it takes both. It's the full package.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like you can have the physique and work hard for months and years, and if you really want to talk, kind of stretch it even further. I mean, really from the first time you pick up your weights, you're building your physique. So it takes you years to build up this physique, and you peak, at certain points. And then if you can't pose, it's like, it's almost null and void. Like you just, you can place poorly just because of that.
Yeah, basically, because you just look afraid on stage. And that's like, I am fully percent responsible. When I step on stage, like this last show that I did, I thought I was doing great. And when I was posing, I was looking at my photos, it looked like I was looking at the ground. Like, way I like put my back up, it just looks like I was straight up looking at the ground. And you don't notice that because you think you're doing it right. And once you look at those photos, you're like, wow, what am I looking at?
How do you correct that?
Posting, like off season, like doing it over. And then once you know your mistake you've done once, you don't want to do that again. So definitely, I actually reached out to Margie. I don't know if you're familiar with Margie, bodybuilding Margie.
Sounds familiar, but I would have to see her,
So I texted her and I told her that my next show, because she's very open to like getting you right. She will tell you like, stand straight. Like, she will like tell you like that. She's not being aggressive. She will just tell you what's wrong. So I told her I'll be working with her on FaceTime, and then got a couple like, I'll probably work with my coach because he's good with posting. I just didn't go. I literally jumped into a show last minute. Like, we did 4-month prep, so it was 18 weeks. My last.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah, that is pretty much last minute.
Yeah, so we did what we could in 4 months, but now we have a whole year plus. We're training now. He's training my legs every other Saturday. I'm trying to get there every Saturday. So eventually, once we start getting officially ready, where he starts literally feeding me after I'm done losing weight from all this medication, we feed himself, and then 6 months of like bulk, and then hopefully after that jump into a show. Like, we're gonna just playing it by ear. Of course, if he sees me falling off, he's gonna tell me like, we need to fix it.
That's what I was gonna ask you later. If you had a show like picked out that you would want to do, but you're saying no, or do you really have something kind of your eye on, so to speak?
Not really. I haven't really chose a show yet, because I want to see what next year, right at the beginning of the year, what my body's looking like. If I have to book, then I'll probably do towards the end of the year. But if my body did gain different muscle and I'm starting to look different, then we'll do early in the year. So
you said that you're waiting to lose weight. I mean, I know we talked about getting on medication and for your estrogen and stuff like that. How much weight did you put on, and how much are you at, like have to go before you start bulking again, so to speak?
So usually off season, I sit around 140, 145, just depending. But this off season, I am sitting at 125 to 130, and I'm eating. I'm telling you, I am eating, and it just doesn't go anywhere. It's just right there.
So you're high, like your metabolism's pretty high.
Yeah.
Have you always been that way?
So that's the thing. So I always been small. Yes, from powerlifting, I was like 113 competing. So yes, since I've always been so small, now my body's doing what it should do. Because when your hormones are balanced, your body's gonna do what it should be doing. Because you're like body, your girl body, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, so that's the struggle that I'm facing. And I mean, I can feed myself, but it's also pointless because I'm like feeding myself to the point that I don't even want to do it when it comes down to when I have to actually bulk. But
Yeah.
I still cook my ground turkey, my rice, like still measure all my food. Monday to Friday, I stay pretty on track because I work my 12-hour shifts. I go to when I have a sweet tooth, I just go to bed. I chug water and go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Go day without sweets and stuff. So I
So you,
also
so you do try to like eat pretty clean, even
yeah.
though you're like ideal, you would want to get a little heavier, like, but you're trying to put it. So I guess my question is the goal to put on more muscle for you, like to put on more weight?
Yes, but I am Mexican, so if I don't watch what I eat, I will turn it into fat. I just know based on experience, like my body will turn into fat. So since I already know that I shouldn't be eating what I shouldn't be eating, I'm just trying to eat what I can right now and try to turn it into muscle. Like that's pretty lean right now for off season and just not trying to turn my weight into fat. Really,
Right. So you're trying to like gain like good quality weight, not just pounds,
basically.
That's part of like the problem for a lot of people. I'll have people contact me and like tell me what their weight and what they're weighing, and so to speak. And I'm like, well, what does that tell me? That doesn't really tell me anything. I mean, you could be 200 pounds and look phenomenal. You could be 200 pounds and look terrible. I mean, so it's like muscle to fat ratio is way more important than like the pounds on the scale. But people get tricked. They're working out, they're eating, and they're gaining weight, and they think it's muscle, but in a calorie surplus, you could be gaining fat too. So it's kind of like hard to say. So like to your point, it's like you don't want to be just gaining just weight for no reason. Like you want it to be, good solid weight.
Yeah. So basically it's the way I'm training and what I'm eating. That's my biggest like thing. Like I know I can do it. I'm just gonna watch what I eat. This like
Mhm.
as I'm taking meds. Hopefully in the next 3 months that will switch and then I can just start eating. My coach will write me down the plan. I will follow it to the T and then I
Yeah.
think will start to take place.
What do your splits look like workout
So
wise?
so Mondays I train calves
Mhm.
and I hip thrust. And then after that, and then I do shoulder. The reason I do that because I need to improve my glutes. My calves
Mhm.
don't improve, but I just do them because just to keep them there, I guess we can say. And
Mhm.
then Tuesday I do shoulders and chest. And then Wednesday I will do hamstrings, like just focus on hamstrings.
Mhm.
And then sometimes I have an off day on Thursday. It just depends on my schedule. Usually I do all my appointments on Thursday whenever because I'm
Right.
off. And then Friday I train back, and then I see my coach sometimes like every other Saturday, and we train legs, like a lot
Got
of
it.
dominant stuff.
Do you do any cardio?
No, I don't. I'll be
Okay.
lying. I'm doing cardio right now. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought that would be the answer just because the prior we talked about like you being on the smaller end. I figured you probably don't do any cardio because that would probably make you even leaner.
Probably be small. I probably have
Yeah.
like at this point. Yeah, cardio.
That's funny. So I guess just to kind of, had, great conversation. It was a pleasure, meeting you. And I wanted to kind of round off our conversation with talking about how people can reach out to you. Maybe they want to have you more, on another podcast. You're obviously producing some amazing, apparel as well. If they want to reach out for that, like how would they do that?
My Instagram, Tania slash bottom TT20. I do have another Instagram on there, but that one was hacked, so don't follow it. Don't. It's almost the same as Tania slash. No, it's 20 Tania 13. That one's hacked. Do not follow it. It got hacked way back when everybody was getting hacked.
Got
So
it.
one now, I have my clothing line. I also have an account for my clothing line. Wow, clothing line that is Tania slash clothing line. So Yeah.
Awesome. And I'll link everything at the bottom of this video. So it'll be easy for you to just click on it and go and buy yourself a shirt and, you know, reach out to Tanya. It was a pleasure, you know, having you here, and I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it as well.
Of course. Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye.